All right, so let's quickly run through this. It's going to be more or less like a tutorial uh, interaction with you. So we have a kind of reasoning that epitomizes the way we look at things. Inductive reasoning. When we make arguments or when we reason on the basis of probability to make a conclusion. That is what inductive reasoning is all about. In all instances, or in many instances, we don't have a grip of the facts. We may have a little bit of facts. On the basis of that, we predict into the future. We predict the consequence. We predict the conclusion. That is what inductive reasoning is all about. So if I say that, for example, today we had a problem getting our lecture through. Yesterday we had a problem getting our lecture through. Then I conclude that it is likely to be the case that we'll have a problem getting our lecture through every single time we decide to meet. That is an inductive reason. On the basis of a little piece of evidence that I have, I make a prediction, I make a conjecture. I guess the conclusion that will be. We face this in everyday arguments and interactions with people. So that is what we are going to look at. We're going to look at the various types of inductive reasoning. Are we fine? Are we fine? Yes. So, as I said, inductive reasoning is a kind of reasoning based on probability. You may have a little bit of evidence. The evidence is called premises. So, anytime there are certain technical words you will need to know. Anytime you hear premises, we're talking about evidence. And so, on the basis of scanty evidence or premises, you draw a particular conclusion. Yes. Just a minute. Right, me, I left your eye. All right, so we will look at the various types of inductive reasoning. This first, the first section is simply giving you insight into what inductive reasoning is, defining it. Basically, it is an argument which is based on, probability, that on the basis of some little bit of evidence that you have, you draw a conclusion. And the conclusion is an assumption. That assumption can be true, it can be false. So, for example, if I've dated a fancy lady and she likes money, I've dated another one, she likes maybe a third one, she likes money. And then I jump to the conclusion that all fancy ladies like money. That is an inductive reasoning. The conclusion is based on probability. That yes, I have evidence to prove that the three ladies I have dated all like money. They are fancies, they like money. On the basis of that, I say all fancy ladies like money. It may be true, it may be false. So the evidence is not enough to support the conclusion. All right, so let's move on to the main type of inductive reasoning. The types inductive reasoning by generalization and instantiation. When you say by generalization, just like the example I have made, you move from particular instances of evidence to make a general conclusion. Particular instances of evidence or evidence about particular instances. On the basis of that, you draw a general conclusion. So, as I said, particular instances of evidence. I have dated a fancy lady. She likes money. I dated a second fancy lady. She likes money. I dated a third fancy lady. She likes money. Maybe I dated a fourth one. She likes money. I have established one characteristic running through the four fancy ladies I have dated. On the basis of that, I make a general conclusion about all fancy ladies. Then I say all fancy ladies like money. That is an inductive reasoning by generalization. So here sometimes people say, oh, all Asantes are this, all Fantis are this, all Northerners are this. It is based on particular instances of evidence that they have drawn, that they have, and they use those particular instances of evidence as basis to project a conclusion about the general, about the universal set of the people they are dealing with. Are we fine with this?
Yes, sir.
So when you are looking at inductive reasoning by generalization, you take particular instances, evidence of particular instances, and then you draw a conclusion. You need to be sure of the sample size. In the example I made, that I dated four fancy ladies at different instances, and each of them likes money. Is my sample size big enough to warrant the conclusion that all fancy ladies like money? So if your sample size is not big enough to represent the general conclusion you are making, you are likely not to get the whole thing. Yes, they are all fancy ladies. They all like money. But the four people I'm using as a sample to make a projection or a prediction about all fancy ladies, are they enough? Do they represent the entire fancy ladies? So if the sample size is too small, it is not likely to provide a solid basis for your conclusion. And then you are also looking at the character of the sample size. If the sample size is biased, then it can affect your projection. Maybe I decide to only pick fancy ladies who are high class. If they are all high class people and did not look at other classes of fancy ladies, then it's likely that it will give me an answer which is not, it will give me an answer which is not representing the population. If I pick, like, if I pick only fancy ladies from one town, and there are different fancy ladies, different towns of the fancies. If I pick from one town, then it's not likely to represent the entire fancy ladies distributed over the different towns. It's like when you pick evidence from only NDC or only NPP, and then you make a conclusion. It's likely to be biased because it's not going to be representative. Do you understand that? Are you clear with the explanation?
Yes, sir.
If you are not clear, you let me know. And then we have inductive instantiation. Now, here you have general information about the group of people you are dealing with. And usually when it comes to biases, You have general information. It's the opposite of generalization. Now, you have the perception that all Northerners like fighting. That's a perception. So you meet one Northerner, and then you just conclude, oh, I'm from the North, yes. Oh, then you should, you like fighting. I don't want to be with you. Because of the general perception that Northerners like fighting, when you see one Northerner, you're likely to jump to the conclusion that he or she likes fighting. That's instantiation. You see, it's the opposite of inductive reasoning by generalization. With generalization, you move from particular instances to make a general conclusion. With instantiation, you move from the general perception to make a prediction about individuals. So you are working in an organization, maybe, and then you say the organization is corrupt. That organization is being indicted for corruption. And because that organization, there's a general perception, belief, or evidence that that organization is corrupt. Then somebody sees you, an individual working in that organization, and says you are also corrupt. Yes, it is true that the organization is corrupt. There's evidence to prove that the organization is corrupt. But it is not the case that you, the individual working in the organization, is corrupt. It can be true, it can be false. So if I just jump to the conclusion, because you work in that organization, you're also corrupt, then that is an inductive reasoning by instantiation. Move from the general situation to make a prediction about instances, individual instances. Are you okay?
Yes,
Are you
sir.
fine? So if you say all GCTU has is a brilliant university or has brilliant students, or maybe there are many brilliant students in GCTU, general. Then I see you, the individual, you. What is the name of the guy who has been saying yes sir, yes sir?
Solomon,
Then
sir.
I see you,
I'm Solomon.
Solomon. So I see Solomon and say, oh, then Solomon is a brilliant student. That is inductive reasoning by instantiation. It may be true, it may be false. And then analogy, legal and moral reasoning. When you say analogical inductive reasoning, what you are comparing two or more objects to draw a conclusion. We usually compare and contrast. Any conclusion you make about something by comparing and contrasting is an inductive reasoning by analogy, or simply analogical inductive reasoning. So we get to analogy, legal, and moral inductive reasoning. When you are comparing things, you are looking for similarities, instances of similarities, instances of differences, and then you draw a conclusion. So if I see you and you look like a certain somebody, or the two of you look very much alike, then I conclude that you are twins or you have the same parents. That is an inductive reasoning by analogy, or simply analogical inductive reasoning. When you are comparing things, there are a number of things you need to look at. When you the kind of entities, the kind of objects you are comparing, they are called analogs. So if I'm comparing Solomon and David, the two people I'm comparing are called analogs. And analogs are divided into two: primary analogs and secondary analogs. The primary analog is the original object. That serves as a basis for you to compare. The secondary analog is the object you are using to compare the original. So I have Solomon that I know. Solomon becomes my primary analog. I have seen David. David looks like Solomon. So David will now become my secondary analog. I am using David to compare with Solomon. Are we fine?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Solomon, you are the only one who is fine. The rest are not saying anything. What are they? Are they here?
Yeah, fine, sir.
So I have, hey, holy Amenu Veve.
Yes, sir.
Have I pronounced it well? Amenu Veve, Elvis,
That's correct,
Prince,
sir.
Atta, Peter, Daute, Gilbert,
Yes, sir.
Mensah, Solomon Yirinchi, Magdalene Annan, Michael Nto, Roland Odro Boating, and who else? I'll go to the next. What's that? God sent. Or
Yes,
what?
sir. Yes, sir. God
So why is
sent.
that your God? Your God has 3 Ds.
So I'm joining with an external device that has the name.
No, but
Yes,
your God, the way you spelled your God, it has 3 Ds.
yes, please, because it has, but originally it has just one D, please. But the
Oh,
device I
okay.
have has the three. Yes, please.
Okay. Richard Awini, Jonathan Senanu Dot, John Aheto, Eric, Ivan Waku, Selena Champon, Champon, Eric Aya, Dompre, Gabriel Ado, Samuel Ejin, and who else? Collins Afrifa Ahinkura, Yvonne Nana Ajua Kwakwa, or what? Yes. Joseph Nate, Moses Osei, God Sent, Odati Lamte. These are the people I have, right? Good. So I keep hearing from, what's the name? Uh, from only Solomon. And I want to hear your voices as well. Yes, so back to the or back to the analogical inductive reasoning. So I have God sent, I have Solomon. Now, Solomon is the first person I've known. And then later I came into contact with God sent. And I see that God sent has features similar to that of Solomon. So the first person I have known that I have been able to identify his features will be my primary analog. God sent that I got to know later, and I'm now looking at comparing his features to those of Solomon. God sent will now be my secondary. So when you are comparing certain things, it is important you look for certain factors, certain variables. What is the relevance of the similarity? What is the main thing that can be said to be key as far as comparing the two objects is concerned? So is it just the facial outlook that is more relevant? What is a relevant element that is similar in both of them? That defines their similarity. Because two things can be similar, but it doesn't mean that they are the same. So if here in my example, I'm comparing what? Cars. Now, if fuel consumption So I'm saying that this engine has a small, or this car has a small engine capacity and low consumption rate. And then I say that another person has the same car of the same model and same engine capacity. And then I conclude that therefore it will also be what? Economical in fuel consumption. So the main relevant thing about the similarity is the engine capacity. So if the engine capacity is what defines low fuel consumption, and the two of them have the same engine capacity, then I am likely, if I conclude that, then the second car I am seeing has low fuel consumption. My conclusion is likely to be true. So the engine capacity is more relevant to cars when it comes to what? Fuel consumption. But comparing how nice the cars look like and then conclude that therefore they have low engine capacity, low fuel consumption. Being nice, the car being nice is not relevant as far as fuel consumption is concerned. It is the engine capacity. And so when you are comparing, look for what is relevant, defining element in that similarity. You cannot just be looking at the beauty of the car and say, then it will be what? It will consume less. You look for what makes a car to consume less. That is an element we use to compare. Hence, when you're comparing certain things, look for that relevant element. If what you're comparing is not that relevant element, then your comparison may not be accurate. So when you're comparing things to, the more you get similarities, the likelihood that your conclusion is accurate. So one similarity alone is not enough. That's another principle. Yes, I've seen that Godson looks like facially like Solomon. It's not enough. What other similarities are there? The more the similarities, the more likely your conclusion is going to be accurate. The fewer the similarities, the more likelihood that your conclusion is not going to be accurate. In the same way, if the similarities are more than the similarities, then you can't conclude in favor of the similarities. So look for more similarities. When there are more similarities, they're likely to support your conclusion. When there are less similarities, they're likely not to support your conclusion. In the same vein, when the dissimilarities, which is called disanalogy, when they are more than the similarities, then you can conclude in favor of the similarities. So these are principles you need to let guide you anytime you are comparing two or more things. And then again, if you have more primary analogs, I'm comparing Godson to Solomon. Solomon is my primary analog. Then maybe I see another brother, a brother of Solomon. So the brother of Solomon will also be a primary analog. I have three brothers of Solomon who look exactly like Solomon. So Solomon is a primary analog. The three brothers are also primary analogs. They all look exactly the same. And then I'm comparing Godson to all the four of them. So the more the primary analog, the primary object you are looking at, the more you have them to use as basis to compare with the secondary one, the more likely your answer is going to be accurate. So just look for one primary object you are using as a basis for the measurement. If you have two or more of them and they all look the same, and you are comparing them with a secondary one, it is likely that your conclusion is going to be what? Accurate. So that is what you need under this. The diversity of primary analogs. For example, if I'm looking at something in Ghana, I have a primary analog here. It must not just be only in Ghana. I should be able to get something in Nigeria, to be able to get something in another country, and they're all the same. So that serves as a unique feature for the primary analog. On the basis of that, I can use that to compare what is happening, then to compare with the secondary one. So if you are just picking one, maybe within Ghana, for example, that you get the primary analog, you're talking about women liking money. They like money. You have gotten primary analog among the Fanti, among the Ga, among the Evi, maybe among the Ezima, and then you are comparing them with maybe the Equiapim, with maybe, with the Equiapim, for example. When you have more different primary analogs, it serves as a strong point for you to use to compare with a secondary one. So these are principles you must adhere to when you are comparing. And then your conclusion should not be specific. Don't say that it is by all means. The conclusion is that it's by all means that I've compared, I have primary analogs from different groups, and I'm comparing them with the Equiapim ladies. They'll conclude that by all means, Equiapim ladies also like money. Then when you are concluding, you can say it is probable, it is likely that because Equiapim ladies share the same features with the primary analogs, it is likely that they also like money. Don't say categorically that the Equiapim ladies like money. When you say categorically like that, you are specific. It is likely. In the same way, maybe when you are comparing something and you say it is likely that the answer is between 20 and 30, that's you are not giving a specific answer, you are giving a range. That is how you make a conclusion when you are comparing two or more things for similarities. Any question there? Are we fine?
Yes, sir.
So these are examples. Please, when you read the slides, or you read the book, please go through the questions, the activities. They are very important when it comes to the exam. Now, legal reasoning is inductive. When the lawyer argues, the lawyer is comparing your case with an established tradition. So if you go to a lawyer and the lawyer listens to your case, now the lawyer will now begin to look through all cases to see the judgments or the facts of the case, of those cases that yours is similar with. So they are comparing to be able to build an argument for you. So if the lawyer is arguing, we say this versus this, he's quoting that to support that. Look, this case was like this, and this was the judgment by the court. It supports my case, which is like this. So all legal cases make comparisons to be able to build a good case to support their argument. So the lawyer will not just make an argument in vacuum. It's like when you are preaching, like you are a pastor, you are preaching, and you just give the sermon raw. When they are preaching, you find that they will try to contextualize it by quoting something from the Bible to support it. In the same vein, when the lawyer is arguing, he's just arguing raw like that. He situates the case within case law by quoting cases to support it. And that's what lawyers do. So all legal reasoning is inductive. Are we fine with that?
Yes, sir.
And then you have moral reasoning. It's also inductive, based on inductive reasoning, more or less by analogy. They are comparing. If I say you are a bad boy, it means I am comparing you to my standard, to my principle of a bad boy. I have, before I can say you're a bad boy, it means I have a certain principle, I have a certain standard that I use to determine what constitutes a bad boy or a bad person. So I am now comparing you to that standard. If I say you are a liar, it means I have a standard of what constitutes a liar or what constitutes lying. I have a standard. For me to be able to say you're a liar, I must have this template of what constitutes a liar, and I'm now measuring you against it. So all moral reasonings are analogical. They compare. And that's where the problem is. If you tell me I am a liar, I will ask you, what is your standard? There's no universal standard to determine who is a liar. Or there's no universal standard for us to use to measure, to determine who is a liar or what constitutes lying. Of course, people say not saying the facts or fabricating the facts. That is what lying is. But the point is, how do you know the facts to be able to tell me that what I'm saying is untrue? And so anytime somebody passes a moral judgment on you, moral judgments are subjective. Moral judgments, they are subjective. There's no universal standard to measure morality. They are subjective. If I say you're a bad boy, I am making a moral judgment on you. You are a bad boy to me, but you may not be a bad boy to somebody else. I see you as a prostitute, but somebody else does not see you as a prostitute. So what we are simply saying is that, one, moral judgment measures you against a certain standard, and there's no universal standard that can be used as a template to measure morality. Morality is subjective. And so if somebody calls you names by making a judgment on you, as someone who has understood what moral reasoning is, you have every right to question the person. So subject that person to critical analysis. Ask that person, what's your basis? What's your standard that you are using to measure me? That standard you're using to measure me, is it a universal standard? No, it is simply subjective. Are we fine?
Yes, sir.
It's only someone who say yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's only Solomon. Why?
Yes, sir.
Now,
Yes,
at least
sir.
for the first time, I've heard the voice of a lady. But that one looks very deep. Your voice looks deep, sounds deep. Anyway, I will let me hear from another lady. Perhaps the voice may not be deep. Yes. Hey, how many ladies are here? The lady who said yes, what's your name? I'll give you marks, okay?
I'm Selena, sir.
Celestina. Is there any other lady?
No, Selena.
Selena. So Selena, you have earned my 5 marks today.
Thank you, sir.
Yo. Wait, is there any other lady? All right, so they don't like marks. Let's move on. And that we are looking at authority, science, and enumeration. Celestina. Celestina.
Say it's Selena. It's Selena, sir.
I worry you. Let me see. Apart from Celestina, let me see which other lady is here. Ah, na manu munkasa. Adamu Surumiana.
No, sir.
Erica, yeah. Erica. Erica.
Sir.
Yes, sir. Erica. What has your mother ever what has your mother ever told you that you see as something authentic? You know, when we were growing up, remember when I was growing up, my parents told me that as a child, it is your duty to always greet people when you meet them. Greet them, elderly persons, greet them. And so anytime even when I see, it has become part and parcel of me that even when I see my students, I greet them. And that it is not nice for you not to greet people when you meet them. And so sometimes I also pass it on. Please make sure that you greet people. It is not nice not to greet people. When you meet, especially elderly people, greet them. Don't only greet your colleagues and fraternize with your colleagues. That is an inductive reasoning by authority. When you act, when you make a conclusion based on what somebody has told you, and that person now serves as an authority to, okay, let's start with science. Let's start with science before we get there. You know, inductive reasoning by science, we look for certain science as a basis for us to make a conclusion. When in Ghana, you see that when you are traveling or when you are on a bus, I mean, a car, and then you see, how do they call it? That there are grasses along the road. I don't know whether you have seen that, grasses along the road. What comes to your mind? Hello, are you with me? Hello?
Yes, sir. I hear you, sir.
When you see grasses dotted along the road, what comes to your mind? Either grasses or leaves dotted along the road. What comes to your mind?
What comes in mind is that there is danger ahead, so you drive
There's danger
carefully.
ahead. Okay. So, or the danger ahead, there's a broken car ahead of you. So, it poses danger. So, drive carefully. That is an inductive reasoning by science. We use science to make a conclusion. You see, that one, when you see it, you have already concluded that there's a danger ahead. It could be that there's a danger ahead. It could be that after they have repaired the car or the vehicle and taken it away, they haven't taken the grasses that have been lit along the road. You know, most of the time, when they finish, don't even come back to take the grasses. They don't take the car away. But that is an inductive reasoning by sign. So if I see you and smile at you all the time. Selena, Erica, where are they?
Sir, we are here.
Yes. You see, when a guy sees you, smiles at you, winks at you all the time, do you make a certain conclusion?
He
Jump
likes
to
you.
you jump to a conclusion. Yes.
He likes you.
He likes you.
Yes.
You jump to a conclusion. This, and here, Papa, or person I am lying. He likes me. He's interested in me. It may be true. It may be false. It could be that the person just winks at you, smiles at you for the sake of it. But he's not interested in you. But at least the signs will lead you to a certain conclusion. That is an inductive reasoning by sign. We make these conclusions all the time. In life, we use signs as basis to make a conclusion. When the medical doctor, the physician, you go before a physician, they will ask you, how do you feel? I feel like this, I feel like this, I feel like this. These signs, symptoms, serve as a basis for him to arrive at a certain conclusion that you have, then arrive. So it could be malaria, it could be typhoid, it could be this. Go and do the test. It helps them to narrow down to a certain conclusion. That is an inductive reasoning by sign. Erica, remember last month? That was last year, November. You were almost every morning you were throwing out, you were feeling weak, you were looking pale. Remember? Erica?
Sir.
Do you remember?
No, sir.
Oh, Abba. So when you feel, okay, so let's look at it this way. If a lady throws out almost all the time, in the morning in particular, always feeling weak and sleeping all the time, looking pale, what likely conclusions can we draw?
She's pregnant.
She's pregnant. That's an inductive reasoning by sign. Sometimes you see somebody frown the face, say, this guy is angry. It's an inductive reasoning by sign. So when you use signs as basis to make a conclusion, it is an inductive reasoning by sign. It may be true, it may be false. You see, you can see somebody weeping, say, hey, this person is sad. You have concluded that the person is sad. It may be true, it may be false. Somebody can be weeping or crying, and you say tears of joy. But the signs we are seeing will lead us to a certain conclusion. And then we have inductive reasoning by authority. With this, you make an argument based on what an authority has said. So if your father tells you it is bad to do this, and all the time you behave or you argue based on that, then you are concluding or making an argument based on inductive reasoning by authority. Remember this? This small girl, the Nigerian actress, that tiny looking figure. What's her name? Is it Ebube or something of that sort? Hello? Has somebody ever watched her videos or clips? In fact, there was one interesting one which I always use as an example for inductive reasoning by authority. You know, He said, what is a virgin? Or who is a virgin? I don't know whether you have watched something like that. Who is a virgin?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And then somebody said, a virgin is what? A woman that no man has ever touched. I said, oh, thank God I am not a virgin. I said, plenty men touch me. So the authority who define a virgin is that any man, any woman that a man has never touched. On the basis of that, she concluded that she's no more a virgin because the authority said this is what a virgin is. So her argument is on an indicative reason by authority. My grandmother has told me of this, that my mother has said this is what constitutes a virgin. On the basis of that, I concluded then I'm no more a virgin. People say certain things to you and you see them as your authority. If the president should say this, that is an authority. So if on the basis of what the president has said, then you make an argument. Your argument is what? An inductive reasoning by authority. What the authority has said may be true, may be false. And if you use that as a basis to make a conclusion, if the president says, oh, what is happening in Iran, between Iran on the one side and US, Israel, UAE, otherwise, Saudi Arabia, not on the other, a lot of them, on the other hand, will not spread to Ghana. It will never, I promise you, it will never spread to Ghana. That is what an authority has said, because, I mean, if they have to be anything about the country's security and all that, whatever the president says, we believe that. We take him for his words. And then if we now begin to argue, oh, this war will never spread to Ghana, it will only remain there. We are making an inductive reasoning by authority. It could be true, it could be false. It could be that it will extend into a third world war, and it will affect even all African countries. So if somebody tells you something, then you need to analyze that authority, that person who said it. How credible is the authority? Is the authority credible? Is he the type of person that will say one thing and then tomorrow another thing? Or is it the person that will say one thing and will continue to defend it on that whatever the authority says, it comes to pass as what it is? If the authority is not credible, then you can't use the information the authority has used as a basis for you to make an argument. Now, is it only, it may not be one authority, there are many, many authorities. Some of you read economics, and then when you ask you to define economics, you find that all the authorities in economics are defining it differently. If you have two or three defining it the same way, then there's a consensus. There's an agreement, there's an understanding among the authorities. We can say that, yes, all the authorities are saying it is this. You find that in the sciences, all authorities will define matter the same way, will define photosynthesis the same way. So there's a consensus on the authorities. If there are more authorities and all of them are saying the same thing, then it is more likely that if you use them as a basis for your argument, your conclusion is likely to be accurate. And then whatever the authority says, it has to be in context. It has to be relevant and it has to be in context. If it is not within the context, so if the president says that it's unlikely that this war will spread to Ghana, it will not be. And if you don't put it in the proper perspective, that the war will only be limited to major countries, or you don't put in the perspective, it says it's unlikely to spread to Ghana. If it spreads to Africa, it does not necessarily mean it has spread to Ghana. So you have to put it in the context. Now, is it transparent that how did he arrive at the conclusion? What method did the person use to arrive at the conclusion? That now serves as a basis for you to make an argument. If that method is faulty, then the conclusion you are using to serve as a basis for your argument will also be faulty. And hence, your entire argument will be faulty. Different people should be able to come to independently look at that same thing that the president has said and come to the conclusion that yes, it is true or it is false. If you have independent people who are saying something different, who are looking at the same thing and saying something different, then we have a problem. We should be able to evaluate it. So there are a whole lot of things that you need to look at. Then you have enumerative inductive reasoning. Now, here, you can move from, it's a combination of inductive reasoning by generalization and instantiation. Now, if you move from, you can move from general to particular instances. You can move from particular instances to general instances, enumerative. But what it has to do is that it quantifies the conclusion. It provides figures to your argument. In numbers, more or less, your argument. So if we say 80% of Ghanaians who complete university don't get a job, that's why we have put a figure there as enumeration. And then we find that Solomon has completed a job, university. Then we say it is unlikely that someone will get a job. Or we say 80% of students don't get jobs. And then we say Solomon has completed university. And we say Solomon is likely to be among the 20% of those who have completed university and will not get a job. So we are providing figures here. Or we say out of 10 people, we say now we have sampled. Then we say 6 of them have a bad temperament. 6 of them have a bad temperament. On the basis of this, we quantify. With enumeration, it's all about quantification. Then we quantify 6 over 10 times, and we'll give a 60%. Then we quantify and say that 60% of people or Ghanaians have a bad temperament. That is what enumerative is. It's sometimes called, it's the same as statistical inductive reasoning. Any question? Are you fine there? With enumeration, we are making our arguments in the light of what? Figures, in the light of statistics, more or less. So if I say that there are about 30 students in my class, and out of 10, out of these 30, 10% got A's, or 10%, 10 people got A's. Then we make the general conclusion, 10 over 30 times 100, it gives us about 33.3%. So we can say about 30% or 33% of the class will make an A or made an A, where we quantify our results. That is enumeration. Are we fine?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so that's what I need in this particular topic. The rest of the statistical is the same as enumeration. Causal reasoning, I hardly, but causal reasoning is when you look at something that has happened and you try to link some another thing to it as a cause. So I come to class. The class is dark. I flick on the lights. And then as soon as I flicked on the lights, the class caught fire. And then you say that you link my flicking on the light to the class catching fire. And you say that my action, which is flicking on the light, is a cause of the fire. It may be true, it may be false. You are linking two events to each other, in which case one becomes a cause, one becomes an effect. I see Selena and I slap her. She falls down and collapses. Somebody will say that the cause of Selena falling down and collapsing is the slap. It may be true, it may be false. But it could be that there's another cause. My slap just coincided with the time she was going to fall and collapse. It could be that the classroom would have caught fire anyway. It was just about to catch fire when I flicked on the light. So cause-effect relationship, it may be true, it may be false, but at least the one event provides a basis for you to make a certain conclusion. Do you understand? We always make that in life. You need to provide a cause for something. And we make conjectures that this is the cause of it. Somebody doesn't talk to you, say, why this person doesn't talk to you? Because she's interested in me, but I didn't mind him. It could be the reason. It may not be the reason. It may be that there's something else that is making the person not to talk to you. Are we fine?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to project another one. Oh, it's time. You have a lecture after this.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's take this one through. I may not be having the time to meet you every week. That's why I'm trying to take two topics, because I'm supposed to go to main campus to teach the BIT weekend students. So if I teach you this week, probably next week, I have to spend that time with them. Types of contrasting discourse. Now, let's take the discourse aspect. We'll go halfway through, and then maybe next 2 weeks, we'll finish that and take another topic. So that within the next 3 weeks or next 2 weeks, we'll have 3 topics, and we'll be left with 3 more. Sometimes you have a dispute with somebody, a disagreement with somebody, and you need to identify the cause of the disagreement. That's what we call contrasting types of dispute. We need to understand the cause of the disagreement. One of the causes of the disagreement can be what we call a verbal dispute, a word, a key word that both of you are looking at the key word differently, and that can cause a dispute. So for anyone to resolve the dispute, the person must identify the key word and know how each disputant is using the key word to mean. If they use the key word to mean differently, then it is a cause of the dispute. Hence, the key word must be defined for all of them to be able to use it in the context. You know, words have different meanings, and when they have two or more meanings. Now look at the argument between Bright and Boateng carefully. The key word is lessons. That is the key word. Boateng is using the key word in respect of academic duty, assignment, take-home work, quizzes. That is what Boateng uses lessons to mean. Bright uses the word lessons to mean a different thing, to mean experiences we gain in life. So you find that because both of them are using the keyword lessons to mean different things, that is the source of the dispute. If Bright has used the keyword lessons to mean exactly what Boateng uses it to mean, it is unlikely that the dispute will arise. In which case, if there will not be dispute, Bright will rather be sharing or adding more points to that of Boateng rather than disputing Boateng. So if I say I am lying down in Margaret's house, and someone say it is not true, Margaret is not lying about you. The word lying I use is to tell false, is to say that I have put myself in a certain position on the floor or on a particular surface. But the second one says that Margaret is saying untruth about me. So the key word lying is used differently in one context by one person and used differently in another context by another person. That is the source of the dispute. So identify the key word that is the source of the dispute and define how it is used by each party to know the differences and say that if both of them had used it to mean A, there will not be dispute in the first place. Do you understand it?
Yes, sir.
So if I say Erica had an engagement today, the context I use it is different. Then somebody will say that, no, it is not true. Erica had an engagement to undertake a job or undertake this duty. The first engagement is getting into a relationship, tying a knot. The second engagement is an assignment, a duty, a kind of work you have to perform. So when two people use one key word to mean different things in the same argument, that is a verbal dispute. Identify the key word, know how A uses it to mean, know how B uses it to mean. If both of them are not using it to mean the same thing, then there's a verbal dispute. Then we have substantial dispute or substantive dispute. It's also called factual dispute. It's about the facts. A is presenting different facts. B is also presenting different facts. Which one do you take? You have NDC, MPP, for example. MPP will present different facts about the same thing. NDC will also present different facts about the same thing. Which of them do you take? You don't just take one based on the fact that you like maybe MPP or you like NDC. That is based on emotion, idiosyncrasy. You need to analyze the facts presented by both parties and determine which one is weightier, which one is appealing to the mind more than the other. It's like the debate in the secondary school. You have group A debating on this, and they're presenting their facts. Group B debating the same topic against it, and they're providing their facts. You don't jump to the conclusion that because you like A, they have won, or because you like B, they have won. You analyze their facts and determine the one that carries more weight than the other, the one that is more appealing to the mind than the other. Those are the things we look for. So in a substantive dispute, you don't just say that, oh, I like it. So maybe you have your brother and somebody else fighting or arguing. You don't just say, because he's my brother, I'm supporting him. You have to listen to the facts. Your brother's case, then the other person's case. Which of the cases, makes a logical sense? Which of the cases appeals more to the mind than the other? If the case of the person who is not even your relative makes a lot of sense than that of your brother, you can't just say, okay, I still support my brother because he's my brother. No. It's all about case by case understanding, analysis to determine the one that has more merit than the other. But here in Ghana, we don't do that. Solomon, will you be able to do that? That you see your brother, your sister in having a dispute with somebody else, and then you will be patient to listen to both of them, and then you tell your brother, oh, you are not right. This man is right. Will you be able to do that? Solomon, and I'm on here. Are you gone? Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Gabriel, do you understand what the explanation I've given you about
Yes, sir.
substantive or factual dispute?
Yes, sir.
You can relate it to what happens in your life. We face this all the time, but we don't allow our reasoning to lead us. We allow our emotions to lead us. You know, you may have your brother having a case with somebody. You know, instead of you analyzing the case of your brother and the case of that person carefully and see the one that has merit, we just jump to, in support to our brother. Because he's my brother, I have to support him. No. The ideal situation is for you to analyze the issue or the dispute on a case-by-case basis. You look at your brother's case. No, your brother doesn't have a good point, but the man has a good point. So you don't say, I'm supporting my brother, even though he has no good point. No, you have to support the other person because he has a good point. That is, if you allow the merit of the case to lead you to a conclusion. And that's how you resolve disputes. Sometimes, disputes that come, even your siblings, when your parents are resolving the misunderstanding, they look at who is right, who has a good case. and then they warn this person, no, you don't have a good case. Like, you know, you are the older one, or you don't have a good case. Your younger brother has a good case. Blah, blah, blah. That is how we resolve any dispute based on facts. Then you have a polemic dispute. We have our feelings, we have our inclinations. We have subjective view of what you like and what you do not like. I don't like fufu. And so if I eat it 3 times in a day, it is okay for me. I can eat it in the morning as breakfast, in the afternoon as lunch, in the evening as dinner. Only 3 times in a day, because I don't like fufu. That's why I eat it only 3 times. If I were to like it, I will eat it about 5 times or 10 times in a day. Some of you will not like fufu, and you will not even eat it at all. Some of you will not like fufu, and you eat it maybe once in a month. We have differences in the way we like something or we do not like something. There's no universal standard to measure how we should dislike something. It depends on the individual. Somebody may not like you, but will still be talking to you. But another person will not like you and will not even talk to you. We have differences. That's how our feelings are, our inclinations are. They are based on the individual, subjective. So with polemic dispute, it is about the differences in what we like and what we do not like. So if I say, oh, I like Erica, she's very beautiful. She's the type of lady I want for a wife. That's me. It's based on me. We are different. And then maybe someone will say, Kai, this one. If you see Erica, look at the eyes, look at the face. The face is like, I mean, a tire. She's not beautiful, she's not intelligent, she's not smart, she's very dirty. How can this lady be somebody you want to be, you want to marry? That's you, Solomon. That's how you see Erica. I have my eyes and I see her differently. So you cannot force your feelings on me. I'm sure some of you have introduced your boyfriend or girlfriend to your parents and say, because you have seen the person, you like the person. And you have introduced him or her to your parents or to your friends, and they say, no, this one doesn't fit you. Are you going to take what they have said, or you continue with your feelings, what you like? Polemic dispute. There's no universal standard to serve as a basis to determine what we like and what we do not like. It is all about you, the individual. Therefore, don't say that because a certain person is not liking what you like, and the person is advising you not to like what you like, you have to stop. It is about you. You can decide to stop. You can decide not to stop. So if you take a boy to your parents, and your parents say, no, this guy, we don't like him. No. He's even from the north. He's even an Navy. We don't like him. No. You can decide for yourself. I have seen him. I've seen all kinds of guys. But this is the guy I want. He's a nice guy. He will be a good husband to me. That's it. It's your right. On the other hand, you can say that, okay, because they are my parents, I'll forgo what I like, and then decide just decide that I will not be with this guy because my parents have said they don't like him, so I'm not going to be with him. So polemic dispute, there's no logical conclusion. It's all about the individual. You have to make your decision. So if you have 2 people engage in a polemic dispute, if you and somebody engage in a polemic dispute about your feelings, about what you like and what you do not like, you are right based on what you like, and the person is also right based on what he likes or dislikes. It is not compulsory that I must forgo what I like to take what you like. It's all up to you, the individual. That's what your polemic dispute is all about. Are we fine?
Yes, sir.
You say you have a lecture at 11 o'clock. You have a
Yes,
lecture?
sir. Yes, sir. At 11 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I don't know if I should continue or stop here. Where's the class rep? Now, a convocation is simply one person, not two or more people, one person using one word. In one breath, he uses the word to mean something. In another breath, he uses the same word to mean a different thing. That is equivocation. You keep shifting from one meaning of one word to another meaning of that same word. So if see the example, if you use fire to fire the musket, I've used fire twice in one sentence or in one clause. The first meaning of fire is different from the second meaning. So the way I've used the word, that is an equivocation. If you are not careful, you are reading, the reader may be misled to think that fire there means one thing. The first one means one thing, the second one means the same thing, and that is wrong. If you look at market as a structure that I have used in the context of the first one, market, it's about a place, a structure where goods and services are sold and bought. But in the second usage of the word market, I am talking about selling. So I shift from one meaning of the word to another meaning of the word in the same scenario or in the same context, but different meaning. When you do this, it is what you call an equivocation. Shifting from one meaning to another. And it is not two people arguing. It is one person who keeps shifting from one meaning of a word to another. How do you resolve this? You resolve it by using the word only once, and then the second usage, you replace it with a synonym. So if I use fire, I don't need to use fire again in the same sentence. I have to use a synonym for the second fire, maybe trigger. So if I say, if you use fire to trigger the musket, that one, the equivocation is removed. And that's in the second sentence, once I've used market, I don't have to use market again in that same sentence. I can only use market again in that same sentence if it means the same as the first one. But if it doesn't mean the same as the first usage of the word market, then I have to replace it with a synonym. So I'll say, hence, it will make it difficult for us to sell our goods instead of to market. That is how you resolve or remove an equivocation in sentences. All right, so our time is up. We'll continue next week or next 2 weeks. But if there's time, if you are free on a Thursday evening, maybe from 7 to 9, class rep, let me know. I can always schedule, and then we'll ask the institute to open it for us.